I was watching two viral launch videos recently. One had this 3D globe animation. The other had a pulsating grid background that filled the entire frame. Now both of them looked complex and time consuming to do instead of After Effects, especially if you are a beginner. So I thought, can we even use AI to build these? Not generative AI, not video generation, but using programmatic motion design, where you dictate the idea, AI writes the code, and the code drives the animation. In this video, I will show you how close I actually got. Trust me, the results will surprise you. The model I'm using today is HY3 Preview from Tencent. It's 295 billion parameters in total, and it's a mixture of experts model, meaning only 21 billion of those are active at inference time. Now that's how it stays cheap and fast. It has a healthy 256K context window without losing the thread. Now here is the actual headline. Claude Opus 4.8 costs $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output token. On the other side, HY3 Preview costs $0.063 per input token and 0.21 for output. First time I saw those numbers, I thought it was a typo. Now what this means is you can build an entire asset, iterate 5 or 6 times, and then the total cost will still be less than $1. The easiest way to access this model is through OpenRouter. You can simply go to the openrouter.ai website from the link in the description below and simply search for the model of your choice. Here we are searching HY3 Preview, and once you click it, you will get to know a little bit of details about this model. It's used a lot under Hermes agent. Now the second most important use case is using inside of Claude Code. By the way, did you know that you can actually change the model that Claude Code uses? If you have used Claude Code before, you know that it uses Anthropic's models, right? But you can actually change those models. Let me know if you want a video regarding that. On third, it's OpenClaw, and fourth is KiloCode, which we are going to showcase very soon. Now the easiest way to use this is going back to the main page and clicking on Playground. You can even start it right here, but I would love to have my own window, so we can open it inside of chat room. There are a lot of different options here. It has some pre-made artifacts like interactive app, landing page, and other stuff. You can also add your own attachments up to 8 files. Now this will give it access to other tools like web search, web page, image generation, and even something as advanced as multi-model consensus and analysis. But let's keep our life simple, and we are going to start with a very simple use case. Now I gave it a very interesting prompt based on our use case. Build a single HTML file. It should have 3 stat counters, animate up simultaneously from 0 to 2.4 million views, 48,000 subscribers, and 312 total videos. Now this is a specific animation that's quite easy to do instead of After Effects. Let's see if it's easier doing it programmatically. So I give this prompt and I will just simply click on send message and wait for its reasoning. Now it will take some while. You can read its entire reasoning approach from here. You can see it has started to give us the HTML file, and it's quite lengthy, by the way, and it gave us a little summary of it. So the next thing that we're going to do is simply copy this HTML file and open it in our browser. And as you can see, it did that counter animation quite well. Started from 0 and it did this up to 300. That's a very simple use case, but let's take things to the next level. I was randomly doom scrolling on Twitter when I found a specific SaaS launch video, but there was something particular I really liked about this use of this sort of globe. Now typically trying to do any 3D work natively instead of After Effects is not the best. I think it's easier to do using coding than to do it inside of After Effects. So let's get started. Quickly before we move forward, I was just checking my activity, and you can see how expensive Claude Opus can actually get. The Claude Opus right in here used $0.48 and HY3 Preview just used 0.05 for the same freaking prompt. Claude is getting out of hand. Now the simplest way to get started is going to OpenRouter and click on this get API key. Just click on new key, give it a name like SaaS animations. Then we can just click on create, and it will show you a particular code. You have to copy this code and ensure you keep it very close to your heart and close to a good place, because you won't be able to see this again. For the next part, we need something called IDE. Now don't be afraid. Don't think, okay, I'm not a technical person, I don't know anything about all this coding stuff. You don't have to, because AI is here. So what we're going to do next is search for Visual Studio Code, right? And you can simply click on download and then just download it. So once you open Visual Studio Code, it would look something like this. The next most important thing is we're gonna install extension. We're just gonna go here and search for something called KiloCode. I have already installed it before. Once you install this, you will see something like this pop up on the right. So the first thing that we have to do is configure this. To configure this, simply click on this gear icon. After clicking the settings, all of this will open up. Simply go to providers, click on OpenRouter Connect. It will simply ask you to paste the API key and click on submit. As you can see, OpenRouter models are now available. Now we will go back to models. We will select, we can actually search here. We can select and search HY3 Preview. It's already selected, so I'm gonna just select this. I'm gonna click on save, and you have a live AI agent ready to work for you. All right. We are all set to build our first project. So the first thing that we're gonna do is add a folder here. So I've already added this folder called globe.1. Currently it has nothing, but the reason I love this approach more than just doing it on the web is because I can actually see the files that it is generating, and it can easily read those files. So I don't have to upload, download and everything. So it's all tied in a very neat workspace. Now for the first one, I want something very customizable. I want myself to be able to change dot sizes, even the dot colors, the background, and to even push it to its limit. I wanted to add an option to even add keyframes so that I can literally animate that and use that as a background. Hey, I want to build a single file HTML page with an interactive holographic looking globe, kind of like those slick global network hero sections you see on SaaS landing pages. Please write the whole thing as a one self-contained index.html, inline CSS plus JavaScript. You don't need to add this. I mean, it can do it itself. The globe itself, I added some more controls. Like you can see that I also added like country pins like London, Bangalore, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, and New York. And then I also added like theme section where it has sliders for the hex resolution, which is basically how many dot is contained into each country map. Sounds impossible to do inside of After Effects, but not with code. Now don't worry, I will give you all of these prompts in the description down below so you can try things on your own. Okay, now the best thing I love about this model is the fact of its reasoning. Look at its reasoning, it's so well thought out, right? There's a complex request with many features. It's a single HTML file with inline CSS. It uses globe.gl from CDN, which is basically 3JS. You don't need to know anything about it, just trust me, okay? And it has went really deep with its own research. It knew that it has to use a particular GL component called globe.gl from CDN, then some other libraries from here and there. You don't need to know anything about this. That's the power with AI, right? And as you can see, it's writing and it says, I will build this comprehensive interactive globe application for you. Now it has started writing its index.html. Now it has already done writing its HTML. Okay, now the one reason I love this is because it actively shows how much was the input tokens, how much was the output tokens, and how much of dollars did this session cost. Now this is something really great about this interface. As you can see, it's even listing down things that it did right, it did not do right. So it will automatically start editing it again and working on it until this is done. I'm gonna wait for the AI to do its thing while I grab some water. So stay hydrated, guys. Alright, it seems like it's done writing the file. Now the easiest way to look at this file is just right click on index.html, go to reveal in finder, and then just open the index. As you can see, wow, I was not expecting it to do this. As you can see, this looks quite interesting. There are a couple of themes as we prompted it really well. There's a dark theme, there's an orange theme, there's a blue theme, there's a light theme, there's a custom theme. And in custom, we can change both the dot and the background. So let's say I want the background to be like pink, orange. Let's say I want the background to be orange, I can simply make it orange, and then with the dot color I can even change it to like white. Now if you use your mouse, you can zoom in and zoom out, and it's gonna be like a 3D camera going in and out. So it's kind of crazy, right? How good code has come. Now this is important. This is called hex resolution parameter, which if I just do less, it will be like bigger blobs, right? There might be problems rendering this. Let's try to push it to its limits and see what 5 does. But yeah, it did render. As you can see, there are even more detailing around the edges of the countries. So let's play it a little safe, go back to 4. And then you can even play with other parameters like the dot grid, dot gap. So if you want something like a little more subtle, we can use this, right? So we can go back to this. There's like dot opacity also, we can play with the opacity. As you can see, if we make it this, then the countries on the other side of the globe would be too visible. So we can maybe dumb down this a little bit. This looks good. Then there's also something called atmosphere, right? So as you can see, there's a subtle glow on the edge, which is the atmosphere. Okay, now one thing I think it completely forgot was to add a control for the atmosphere color. So I can change the atmosphere size, but not control its color. So it's very simple. We will just go back to the IDE and just prompt it. Hey, can you add a color control to the atmosphere controller? I just want myself to be able to get a color picker and change the atmosphere color in the index.html. Okay, now the tool that I use for the voice was the Whisper Flow. Seems like it's done, and you can see that it's so easy that just using natural language you can control all of this. After you just reload it, you can see the atmosphere color control is here. And you can change the color to our heart's content. Now there's again something called graticules. If you see closely, if you see these lines, right? Now these lines represent something. Now these are called graticules. If I just turn off graticule, you can't see those lines again. Now again, I would love to prompt it to, okay, can I change the color of the graticules and also the thickness? It would probably do it, but I don't want to waste any more tokens into this, but I wanted to show this something more, right? Okay, not everything is perfect, as it's showing that Bangalore is in literally nowhere, but I think some others it has nailed. New York, let me just change the hex to 4. Yep, I think that's quite accurate. Now this also has a feature that's quite advanced. If you see here, there's something called keyframe recorder. Let's say I want to start it from here. Okay, so I'm just going to simply add a keyframe. Let's move to this part, right? And then I want to like zoom in, and I want the animation to stop right here. I'm just going to add another keyframe. Now when I click on preview, you can see how smooth the animation goes. Now either you can export these frames from here, or you can even record the screen and put it inside of After Effects and play it with your heart's content, right? That was the first one. Let's go to the second part. For the second one, I saw another SaaS launch video that was quite interesting. Now this was by Veduboy. From this video, if you go to the 21st second, you will see the sort of pulsating dot background, right? Now, I don't think it's too difficult to do inside of After Effects. Now let's say you're a beginner in After Effects and you still don't know how to pull off this effect. You can simply explain this scene to an LLM and generate this scene as a background and then build on top of it, right? So if you see, first there are some elements, then it's increasing and filling the screen. I want to push this even further. I want to have even more controls on the grid size, the complexity, and the pattern in which it moves. Now let's build the scene from scratch. I give it a prompt, hey, I want you to build me a single page HTML tool, a pulsating dot grid background generator. Basically canvas based animated background where dots pulse in opacity over time, plus a few control panels on the side so I can tweak everything and export the settings adjacent, right? So I explain the layout, the core visual concept, and the canvas and all the controllers, right? Okay, now it took a while to get this prompt right. Now let's wait till our background is generated. Alright, we have our index.html file ready, and now let's check what it built. So if you open this, it would be something like this. 720p is totally fine for us. Now let's say we want to change the background. I don't want to change the background, but let's say I want to make a lighter shade, right? Let's just do it like this. I think more closer to what was there. And then we can change the dot radius. So I think this is fine for now. Gap between each cluster. You can also scale the pulse, but I think for that you need to sort of increase the gap. Then it should look good. I'm gonna disable it for now. Now there are various cluster types like 2x1, 3x1, and like T-shaped, L-shaped. You can add all of this, right? Now see, if you try to build this inside After Effects, it's gonna be so difficult, right? You can even change the cell layout. This looks pretty scanty. And don't worry, you can animate this. If you do it this looks very like sort of overlapping, right? So we can do this, then play with the density figures and even the jitter, right? Then there's like pulse speed. This will make it pulse really quickly, but we need more stuff in here to make that obvious. As you can see, the pulsating speed is like fast. This it's quite slow. We can even change the pattern in which the animations occur. As you can see, this is cubic ease. There's something called sawtooth. There's something called blink. Something called organic noise. I think I like sine the most. Again, like the previous one, you can simply just record the screen, export it, and use it inside of After Effects as a great background. That was programmatic editing. Go try it. Build something with what you've just learned. And do share your work in the comment section down below. I want to see what you generate. Now you have the technical side. But the bigger unlock is what happens before you even open After Effects. Before I start any client project, I run the brief through the PAGE framework. It completely changes how you approach every brief, every client, every animation you ever build. I broke down the full framework and exactly why some motion design work land and some don't. If you want to watch that video, click here and don't forget to join Indian School of Motion. By the way, this is the last video that we are shooting from this home and this set. It has been 2 years. I feel very emotional and nostalgic that we are shifting to a new office and a new location soon. So stay tuned for that vlog.